There could be a bug that has to be fixed on a different project, or there could be a feature request that is urgent and requires quick attention. Switching gears severely disrupts your flow, which is something you want to avoid doing since you don't want to lose the progress you've made so far. Do not be afraid, fellow developer, since Git possesses a powerful weapon in its armory, and that weapon is the mighty Git stash. In this video, we'll delve into the world of stashes, exploring how to temporarily shelve your uncommitted changes, leaving your working directory clean and ready for whatever fire drill comes your way. When the coast is clear, you can effortlessly retrieve your stashed changes and resume your coding symphony right where you left off. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty of commands, let's understand why Git stash is such a game changer. Imagine you're working on a new feature on the develop branch. You've made significant progress, but a high-priority bug fix pops up on the master branch. Switching branches would discard all your uncommitted work on develop. Traditionally, you might have resorted to creating a temporary branch just to hold your develop changes. But this adds clutter to your branch history and introduces unnecessary complexity. Enter Git stash. With this powerful command, you can snapshot your current working directory, including all modified and staged files, and tuck them away for safekeeping. This essentially creates a temporary shelf where your changes reside, completely separate from your working directory. Now, you can switch to the master branch with a clean conscience, fix the bug, commit, and push without a worry. When you're ready to return to your glorious work on develop, simply retrieve your stashed changes with another command. It's like picking up right where you left off, with your coding flow perfectly preserved. So, how do we wield this magical git stash command? The basic syntax is straightforward: git stash. Now, when you run this command, Git does two crucial things. First, it creates a new commit object that encapsulates all your modified and staged changes. This commit, however, doesn't become part of your main branch history. It's strictly for stashing purposes. Second, Git resets your working directory to the state it was in before you made any changes. This means any modified files are reverted to their last committed state, and any untracked files, new files you haven't added to Git yet, are simply removed. Let's see this in action. Suppose you've made some edits to a couple of files in your project. To stash these changes, simply navigate to your project directory in the terminal and type git stash. Hit enter, and voila! Your working directory is now clean, and your precious changes are safely tucked away in a stash. But wait, there's more. Git stash is a versatile tool with a few additional tricks up its sleeve. By default, it only stashes modified and staged files. But what if you have new, untracked files that you also want to preserve? No problem. Add the U flag, or include untracked, to the command. For example, git stash U will not only stash your modified and staged changes, but also include any untracked files in your stash. And for those times when you want to be extra thorough, you can use the flag, or all, with git stash. This tells Git to stash absolutely everything, including modified, staged, and untracked files. Be mindful though, using A with git stash will also stash ignored files, which are typically files you don't want to version control, like configuration files or IDE settings. Now, let's say you've created a few stashes over time. How do you keep track of them? Thankfully, Git provides the git stash list command. This will display a numbered list of your stashes, along with some metadata like the date and time they were created. This allows you to easily identify the stash you want to retrieve. To bring back a stash change list, you have two options: git stash apply and git stash pop. Both commands achieve the same outcome. They apply the changes from a specific stash back to your working directory. The key difference lies in what happens to the stash itself. Git stash apply retrieves the changes from the chosen stash and applies them to your working directory. However, the stash itself remains intact. This is useful if you're unsure whether you'll need the stash changes again in the future. On the other hand, git stash pop not only applies the changes but also removes the stash from the list.